Ad Astra stars Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones and is directed by James Gray. And this film is, well, it's not out yet, but it's a new science fiction film that takes place in space. And it's about an astronaut played by Brad Pitt named Roy McBride, who has been just told that his father, Clifford, who has believed to have been dead for a long, long time, is perhaps still alive, and he might be responsible for these power surges that are certainly happening on devices across the entire planet, and they might threaten a lot of lives. People are dying because of it, because things would suddenly fail and they would suddenly be on something and things would go to hell. And so he has to find out what's going on, and that his father might actually be responsible for almost like a potential terrorist attack of sorts. I didn't really go into this movie, like I said, knowing a lot. I walked in without seeing a single trailer. I hadn't seen a shred of footage. All I'd seen is the teaser poster. And so I walked in with absolutely no expectations on what I can expect, but all the expectations on it could be a really great film. And I have to say, for the most part, it is a really fantastic piece of filmmaking. This is a really brilliant film. There's a lot to love here. There are a couple of there's a couple of things I wasn't a big fan of, but the film is just so breathtakingly made. The cinematography and the visual effects are jaw-droppingly great. There's a lot of moments where you'll actually find yourself sitting like that for long periods of time without even realizing that you were sitting there just gaping into the distance over certain things in this film. Certain moments are so transcendental, got it, that they just have to be seen to be believed. And I recommend either watching this on a big IMAX screen or in a Dolby theater. The sound or the whatever, or the video, whatever your preference is, this film is just packed to the core with those elements. And the cinematography by Hoyte van Hoytema, who also did films like Interstellar, which you can tell because there's moments in this where he's clearly brought some skills from there, and as well as Dunkirk. He's done a magnificent job here. Also really great at the performances. This is mainly Brad Pitt. It's an almost one-man show. Yes, there are other actors throughout the entire film as well, in other places, a few cameos as well from other actors who are well established. But 99.9% of the film, it is just Roy. And he plays it so well. This is one of Brad Pitt's better performances, in my opinion. He plays a very broken, damaged human being. He's been through a lot of stuff, and you can tell. And throughout the entire film, he plays that perfectly, and the writing really helps solidify that. Tommy Lee Jones is also really good in the film. Those are really the two actors. Everyone else is just there. It's really Brad Pitt and Tommy Lee Jones. And Tommy Lee Jones also not so much. Like I said, 99.99% it's all Brad Pitt. And he does a fantastic job. The direction is also really great because of that, because it so effortlessly manages to bring us into this world. The world building in this film, the way it's just done, is just remarkable. It really feels like an organic, living, breathing world that is so seamlessly integrated into the reality of this film, which is our reality just a little bit down the line. But it does it in such a fantastical way and so effectively that I found it very convincing. There was never a point of it which felt fake or over exaggerated. Certain moments throughout the film, they mentioned a couple of things where you're like, wow, really? But then you think about it for a second, you're like, of course there would be. There's a lot of parallels that are made because just because we have newer stuff now doesn't mean problems are suddenly gone. Certain things that we were trying to get away from, in life, maybe, there's going to be there all around us, regardless of however times or technology changes. And I thought that was a really great concept as a whole. Actually, one of the things about this film that's important to mention, however, is its obvious inspiration, that being Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Now, if you've read Heart of Darkness, you know that one of the things in that book, which is probably like the main crux of it, is Marlowe constantly wondering what he's going to find when he goes up the river and he finally reaches Kurtz. He's constantly on this journey and he wants to turn back, but part of him is like, I need to know. And that wonder, that sense of curiosity and adventure in a way, even though as things get more perilous as Marlowe goes up the river, he feels like he really needs to know. And then he finally gets to Kurtz and you see that there's this whole new side to it. He's had this revelatory moment. Very similarly in this film, there is a lot of that. Roy is clearly a parallel to Marlowe. The journey that he's going to take to find his father, it's layered with things that are straight out of Heart of Darkness, including some of the narration and the way his thoughts keep conflicting with one another. And although in this one it's more like father and son, it is, but Tommy Lee Jones's character is essentially Colonel Kurtz, whereas Kurtz was a decorated colonel, and then he went a bit insane in Apocalypse Now and in the book Heart of Darkness. In this movie over here, he's a decorated astronaut who is believed to have become somewhat of a radical, and they need to figure out what's going on with him. I thought all that was played perfectly. It wasn't overdone in any way, and in that, if you want to look at it as a successful adaptation to Heart of Darkness, the film definitely succeeds on that front. But one other thing we need to do, before I get into the couple of minor things I have, really just one thing, is the score. Give a big round of applause to Max Richter. Fantastic soundtrack. One of the best of the year in my opinion. Very ethereal stuff. Throughout the film, it just has this, it becomes a character of its own, which is the best thing about a lot of scores. When they can become this way that a movie without it almost becomes useless when it has such an important role to play. And I thought the film really made use of that, and Max Richter did such a great job, and I can't wait to pick this one up actually. I really hope that it comes out soon. I thought it was going to be out today, but it's not. Now earlier in the film, like I said, we established the fact that Roy and Clifford have had a very strained relationship. Things went wrong, he hasn't seen him in years, he thought he's dead, now he's alive, and so there's definitely this sense of conflict that's there, and his dad wasn't exactly the best when he was even around. Now the film showcases these things by having Brad Pitt narrate that as part of these psych evaluations that he's having throughout the entire film. But at the same time, we also have to address the fact that this is now a story that's taking place across years. These emotions are bottled up. I think the film could have actually shown a little bit more in this regard, because you get a lot of flashes throughout the film of his life. You see that his relationship with I believe his wife is sort of crumbled out, and she's played by Liv Tyler, who, by the way, her being in this movie is funny because if you've seen Armageddon, it's just, yeah. And Tommy Lee Jones's relationship with his son, it all seems very strained. But the film decides to tell you a lot of that rather than show it to you. It goes for these quick flashes here and there without actually committing to like maybe a few minutes of like a scene or a couple of scenes to really layer it out. And I thought this was a missed opportunity because the film's emotional core lies a lot in this. And finally, it does deliver on that promise for the most part, but I think it could have been a lot more powerful if there was a lot more leading up to it that we had actually seen, instead of told over it like he was like this, he was like that, he was like this, he was like that. We have time to go into it. It's not that long a film. We have a few extra minutes. I think we could have done it. But I think the film missing out on it is probably the only issue I have with it. Take any film, for example, which has like a space connotation thing. Like when you finally get to the end of Interstellar, his moment with Murph is poignant because we had that first act of the film with Murph played by Mackenzie Foy as the young girl. And we had that relationship between them. We had the moments later on where she was, older Jessica Chastain, and then finally you had that big, closure moment when it was Ellen Burstyn. You've had that sort of gradual flow. I'm not asking for that. I'm just asking for a little bit, so that we could just sort of read the room on exactly what we're dealing with here. Clearly, it's traumatic, but yeah, it just could have used a little more sprinkles here and there. That all being said, the film still on every other level is phenomenal. It really needs to be seen to be believed. It is a fantastic film. I just think, like I said, with those couple of tweaks, it could have been perfect. It could actually have been perfect. But I'm going to settle for really great because I still think it's worth the watch, and I think it's still one of the better movies of 2019. I'm going to give Ad Astra a 9 out of 10. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Look forward to more reviews very soon. I might have something for the Goldfinch later on during the weekend. As always, if you like this, please do subscribe, and I'll see you guys at the movies.